Jr. and Eric Trump. He is a chip off the old block, Joe Biden.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. I wanted to ask you, because you've been, you work closely with them. So that's good.
And I would trash them, I would trash them too if they were worth trashing. But my experience of the two boys has been fantastic. I just saw one of them. I saw Don Jr. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, you run in interesting circles, Robert. It's good to see. What do you want to tell the world about where we are as a people, maybe a civilization, where the world economy is headed in the next few years? Like maybe for entrepreneurs, what's the most important thing to focus on in the short term?
Well, my biggest concern right now has been since for years is why don't we have financial education in our schools? I read this book here in 1965. It's called The Communist Manifesto. So in 1965, I was 18 years old and I went to military school. And instead of studying, my economics teacher was a West Point graduate, B-17 pilot in World War II. And he had us read The Communist Manifesto. And he says, this is what's going to happen to America. It's coming true now. And communism infiltrates America via our education system. And that's why they're teaching, gender identity. And let me tell you something. To say that America is systemically racist is the biggest lie I've ever heard because, I'm Japanese, so I've been discriminated against. But 98% of Americans aren't that way. I was called a white supremacist and I went in to look at the mirrors and now I'm still Asian,
Oh, that's shocking. Yeah, it's interesting. It is strange times. So I always like to, pick the brains of thought leaders like yourself. What's been the biggest contributor to your success over the years? Are you a new real estate agent or thinking about getting a real estate license? If so, you're going to want to ask about the Greater Property Group's Agent Scholarship Program. Why pay for the cost of the course yourself when the Greater Property Group will subsidize the cost for you? Make sure you reach out and get all the details on the Greater Property Group's Agent Scholarship Program. What's been the biggest contributor to your success over the years?
I should say my wife, but no, she's having great partners, great friends. When I was talking to this young guy, some of my son's friends, I said, "Do you respect your friends?" He goes, "No." I said, "Well, we have fun together." I said, "Do you respect them?" He goes, "No." I said, "Then find new friends." It's because my friends, I would say 80% of my friends are entrepreneurs. And my best friend, we started together in 1974. He was a Mormon missionary in Northern Ireland, of all places. And when they asked him, what makes you think you can, we're applying for jobs at Xerox. He says, "What makes you think you can sell?" He looks at the Xerox recruiter. He says, "I have the highest conversion rate of Catholics to Mormonism in the history of the Mormon Church. If I can sell Catholics Mormonism, I can sell a stupid Xerox copier." And so he and I became best friends. And this is a tip I'll give people. He and I became best friends. He sold his business for $2 billion in 2020. We both pushed each other to become millionaires, then billionaires together.
I was going to say, no better salesman. That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have a daily routine now, Robert?
Not really. I'm pretty, that's one of the things I'm not happy about is I don't have a routine. I kind of just work as it comes and I do, I'm always working, but I don't have a really good routine except for going to the gym and stuff like that. But I'm always studying is what I'm doing. I'm on YouTube constantly. Again, listening for the good and the bad, because there's always two sides to everything.
How's your golf game these days?
Non-existent.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question. This makes you think. We always ask this of our guests. If you could have dinner with any three people in history, past or present, who would they be and why?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about that for a while. It'd probably be Abraham Lincoln, because I don't know how he knew what he was getting into, and he still did what he had to do. And that's the true sign of a leader is, do you do what you know you have to do? And he probably knew he was going to be assassinated. So I think that's the best. And like the thing I loved about the U.S. Marine Corps, they were carrier pilots, and we always flew with a total crew of 5, 2 pilots, 2 gunners, and 1 crew chief. And I'd go anywhere with those guys. It was the best feeling in the world. And the hardest part was also when your crews don't come back. You have these guys are your best friends for a couple of years at least. And one day the aircraft doesn't come back. And then years later, I go to the Vietnam Wall and find their names on the wall. So there's an emptiness, there's a high and a low to it. So the highest moments were flying with some of the greatest young men I knew. And then the low is when they don't come back. But the good news is I got kicked out as a Marine lieutenant, but my best friend became a lieutenant general. And today he's a congressman from Upper Michigan, General Jack Bergman. And he helped get McCartney into the speakership and all this. But when Jack and I were Marines together, he was in as much trouble as I was. And as he said to me, I said, Jack, how come I'm in trouble and you're not? He says, because you get caught and I don't.
Wise man. Man. So Abraham Lincoln. Yeah.
Those are the guys I hang out with in real life. They're wise men.
Yeah.
Very successful wise men.
Yeah. Well, as they say, you are who you hang out with, right? So final question, Robert. We talked about legacy earlier and the fact that you're known as, one of the best financial educators in the world. However, what do you personally want to be known for? Like when all is said and done, what does the Robert Kiyosaki legacy look like? What do you want to be known for?
I don't even think about that. I just do what supports humanity and the environment. I'm not an environmentalist, but I don't like what the greenies are doing. Because I have oil and all that stuff. I'll stand up to what I think is right or wrong. If you cut off all this oil, which Biden did, you crushed the poor and middle class. So one of the first acts that Biden did was he kicked out the Keystone XL pipeline. The price of oil, I was making oil at $30 a barrel because I don't own oil shares. I own the real oil in the ground. And oil went from $30 the next day to $130. So I should have been celebrating. I said, I'm a rich man. I don't need the money, but I'm a rich man. But what Biden did when he cut off the Keystone XL pipeline, he crushed the poor and middle class. And I think that's his intention. I think they're trying to crush the poor and middle class via inflation and oil prices and all that, and no financial education in schools. So that's what I fight for. Money's always been easy for me. Not easy, but I like the game. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. But when they're crushing America or the free world or crushing poor people, I get very upset about that.
Yeah, it's funny you brought up the Keystone. We operate in Alberta, which is an oil province in Canada. Right. And the Keystone was, we had tens of thousands of people looking forward to that project, the jobs, what it was going to do to the economy. And when it was canceled, it was like a gut punch for so many people. It really killed them, Anyways, I want to ask about current projects. What do you have on the go right now, Robert? Anything we can look forward to in the short term?
Well, I'm starting my new project called Rich Entrepreneur, Poor Entrepreneur. And it's the next take from Rich Dad, because a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, but what happens for most people that say they quit their job and they start a business, they go into a higher tax bracket. So they go from 40% taxes to 60%. So I'm going to talk about why some entrepreneurs get rich and why most don't. And so that's because we need more entrepreneurs. And the more entrepreneurs we have, the less people who are afraid of losing their jobs are. In other words, my company, my job is to protect my employees, not threaten them for speaking out or, you have to say this or I'll fire you and all this. Because as I said earlier, that's what really got my father. When he ran for lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii, his best friends left him because they're afraid of losing their jobs. And you look at how many people are afraid of losing their jobs, how much that affects their life because of job security, or today with 401ks crashing or with this pensions crashing, we're in serious trouble.
Yeah.
So my work has gone up and it's education. Behind me is a cash flow board game. And the reason I use a board game is because As Maria Montessori says, she's a great educational entrepreneur. She says, what the hand does, the mind remembers. So you're playing this game, it's educating this great piece of real estate here, your left ear between your right ear. This is your greatest asset of all, is your brain, but it's also your greatest liability without financial education. That's why my wife and I created the cash flow board game, so you can actually do. And when you're doing, you're learning more than just listening to a lecture.
Small ebook, big impact, the wealth tree. The only 4 ways that will make you financially free forever. Download it here for free. Small ebook, big impact, the wealth tree. The only 4 ways that will make you financially free forever. Download it here for free.